Welcome, welcome everyone. We are going to begin in just a couple more minutes as everyone joins.
Family history for one is eyes, one is eyes. When you look up the world, and you raise up a sound, oh, there's a what to find, we start till we get it right, When you look up the world, and you raise up a sound, oh, there's a what to find, we start till we get it right, Take good care of yourself, Pay attention to your body. Take good care of yourself, Pay attention to your birthday. There may be no symptoms of something wrong, no signs, no warning. So know your history as you're growing older. Go check your body and fight from a place of rest as you eat a healthy diet and regular exercise to keep a healthy weight. When I look at the world, yeah, can you raise up a sound? Oh, there's a water fight, go fight till we get it right. When I look at the world, can you raise up a sound? There's a water fight, go fight till we get it right.
All right. Welcome everyone to our October iCare educational webinar. If you are not familiar with my face, I know I am a new face, a part of this webinar as host. My name is Jada Melton. I'm a program coordinator within the iCare Consortium, and we have a very exciting webinar today with some great guest speakers. So today we're going to be talking about bridging the digital divide of wearables to improve health in Black prostate cancer survivors, a feasibility study, as well as a presentation on the recent SOAPCA conference. And our guest speakers today are Dr. Emma Fortune Ngufor, as well as Emelina Astro Flores. So please allow me to welcome our first guest speaker, which will be Dr. Fortune Ngufor. So, Dr. Fortune Ngufor is a senior associate consultant within healthcare delivery research at the Kern Center within Mayo Clinic. She's also an associate editor at Frontiers in Sports and Active Living. Her research is focused on developing technology and methodologies to promote healthy aging and wellness through remote monitoring for a better quality of life and fewer injuries, as well as understanding the function and behavior of patients and providers in their home and work environments. Using these advanced techniques in field-based activity monitoring, imaging, and data analytics, Dr. Fortune Ngufor investigates the effects of physical activity, sedentary behavior, and musculoskeletal loading on bone and muscle health. She also studies the applications of remote monitoring with a special emphasis on women's health. Her focus areas also include remote monitoring of physical activity for bone and muscle health management, shoulder function, and manual wheelchair users, as well as improving staff wellness using novel technologies. Please allow me in welcoming Dr. Fortune Ngufor. All right, Dr. Fortune Ngufor, you have the stage.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Jada, and thank you all for the opportunity to present our work today. I'm really excited to share with you some of the results from our recent feasibility study on bridging the digital divide of wearables to improve health in Black prostate cancer survivors. So just to briefly run through some background, as we know, prostate cancer is the second leading cause of cancer death in the US. And despite significant improvements in both health outcomes and survivorship, it still disproportionately affects Black men with higher incidence, later stage diagnoses, greater morbidity and mortality, which significantly impacts physical and mental health well-being. Consumer wearable technologies are rapidly increasing in popularity, with consistently, exponentially more and more people owning their own devices. And these offer a scalable option to engage and observe patients outside of their clinical environments. Many clinicians are using them in different cancer populations here to objectively monitor adherence to physical activity regimes and also to deliver digital behavioral interventions and programs to monitor and improve physical activity, stress, and body composition, which are known to be critical to prognosis and survivorship. These programs offer clinicians a glimpse into the daily lives of patients with their real world activity in their home and community settings rather than just a snapshot that they see in the clinic. However, despite a really large number of feasibility studies that are conducted here in the US on the feasibility of using consumer wearables, these are really mostly focused on white participants, which really limits the generalizability to minority populations. And especially for Black prostate cancer survivors, there really is very limited data existing on the acceptability, feasibility, and usability or impact of using consumer grade wearables to improve health outcomes. So addressing this gap is really crucial for equitable technology-enhanced interventions to improve health outcomes. And in addition to this huge gap, we also have another huge existing gap, which means that despite the widespread research of consumer-grade wearables, it has not yet been widely adopted into healthcare. So what's holding us back from this? Well, we have several implementation challenges still today, some of which I'll outline here. One really being, how do we pull and manage these data into our secure healthcare systems and actually use them for the clinicians with actionable insights to really improve people's health? We also have the issue of device abandonment. Many of these devices are not user friendly, which leads to people, they just cease to wear them after a few weeks or a few months of wear. We also have the big issue of a lack of standardization across devices. If you're looking at your heart rate or your physical activity measures, for example, from an Apple Watch, if you're wearing a Fitbit at the same time, you're probably not going to get the same numbers. And developing AI prediction models based on wearables data has really become very popular in the last decade. But one of the key limitations of these is they often don't help us understand how do you change these health outcome predictions and how are clinicians going to use these models to actually decide how to intervene, what needs to be changed to improve health outcomes for survivors. And those are just to name a few. There are many, many others that I won't go into here today. So to start to tackle many of these issues, we had two main aims for this study. One is to assess the acceptability, usability, and feasibility of a commercially available smartwatch among Black prostate cancer survivors. And then for the second aim in parallel, we want to begin to develop our own wearables data streaming platform, which will really allow us to individualize and tailor interventions for our next phases of scaling up. So for the study, our goal was to recruit up to 14 Black prostate cancer survivors with the expected dropout of around 30%, which is typically what we will see in many wearable device studies, hoping for a end goal of 10 patients to complete the study, which is an adequate number for acceptability studies. These patients were identified using slicer dicer from the Mayo Clinic medical records, and then patients were contacted via email or portal message through their patient portal. Our exclusion criteria were that they must be at least 18 years old, have a diagnosis of low to high grade prostate cancer, and also have a smartphone and Wi-Fi access. Our exclusion criteria were if they were unable to walk at least one block unaided, regular wheelchair use, and if they were currently undergoing chemo or radiation therapy or had a diagnosis of moderate to severe cognitive impairment. So this smartwatch here that you can see is the InBody Band 3. So many of you may be familiar with the InBody company. The main devices that they make are body composition weighing scales that are used at the Mayo Clinic widely. So their lesser known product is their smartwatch. And the reason why we chose this over much more popular consumer smartwatches is that it actually has bioelectric impedance sensors at either end of the watch face. And when you hold your thumb at the bottom one and your forefinger at the top sensor and hold still for 30 seconds, it can actually measure your body composition, such as your percentage of body fat, which we know is one of the key factors for predicting survivorship in cancer patients. So this device, we ask patients to wear it continuously throughout the day We were hoping to also assess sleep by asking them to wear it at night. However, due to some unanticipated battery issues, we ended up asking participants to charge it at night so that it would be able to collect data throughout the day. And throughout the day, it measures their heart rate. It gives a stress score based on their heart rate, and it also measures their steps. And as I mentioned, it also measures body composition measures such as percentage body fat. However, to get an more accurate reading of percentage body fat, you do need to pair this with the digital weighing scales. So we use the Withing scales that you can see here on the right. So this gives an accurate measurement of body weight and body mass index. So participants were required for measuring their percentage body fat to actually manually enter their weight that was measured with the scales. And then they do the process that I mentioned of holding their fingers on the sensors still for 30 seconds. So because of that particular measure being so invasive, we did ask participants to only do that once per week. Whereas the other measures of heart rate, stress, and physical activity are measured passively throughout the day. We did also offer remuneration for study participation for this study. So we did let them keep the Withing scale after, and we did staged remuneration of $30 a week to keep people engaged, as we were also asking them to fill out surveys throughout the study and participate in weekly phone calls, and then an extra $50 upon study completion. I mentioned this point for two main reasons. One, that what we have learned over several wearable studies over the last 15 years, when we do not offer remuneration for studies, our participant compliance rate really drops off and is very low. One thing we also went back and forth on a lot was, for these kinds of studies, do we let participants keep the smartwatch? In this instance, we decided no, because we really didn't know how participants were going to feel about the smartwatch. And if participants don't like a device, getting to keep it at the end as there is not great motivation to keep participating in the study. So this table here shows our timeline of our study activities for our AIM-1, where we're assessing the feasibility and acceptability of the smartwatch. So at baseline, we did have our study coordinator call everybody to go through education and setup for both the smartwatch and the digital scales. And they also went through completing demographic surveys and how to collect the body composition with both the weighing scales and the smartwatch. So each week, patients did do a weekly check-in call with the research coordinator. We instructed them to measure their body composition once a week, preferably in the morning, right when they get up before they eat breakfast, and to try and have it at around the same time each morning and the same day of the week. However, if participants ran into any issues, they did wait for their check-in phone call with the coordinator to go through that to complete the measurement. Our smartwatch tracking, as I mentioned, this is continuous every day, and it's passive daily measurement. So they just, aside from wearing the watch, the rest of those measures will all be collected without them doing anything. And again, for AIM-2 in parallel, we were working with Mayo Clinic IT to develop our own wearables data streaming platform for our future phases. Just to mention, for AIM-1, for the feasibility study, we did have the participants using the company InBody app, where that does allow them to track their physical activity and their stress score and their heart rate throughout the day. But for the purposes of the study team, we are working with our own internal app. So as I mentioned, we did also do a number of surveys for this study, some that I actually have not listed here that we won't focus on today. But the main ones for this particular presentation that I'll focus on are the acceptability study that all participants completed at the end of the study, which had 6 items about how they found the program in general to increase their exercise. And then we had the usability study, the UX Lite, which is just a very simple 2-item usability study on the use of the smartwatch itself, just asking if around whether the smartwatch capabilities meet their requirements on a scale of 1 to 5, and how easy they felt the smartwatch is to use, again on a scale of 1 to 5. So we ended up contacting 63 men to invite them to participate in this study. So 48 were excluded. We had 44 non-responders through the email and portal messages. And then we had 4 that declined participation. We screened 15 men and had just 1 screen failure due to being unable to walk at least 1 block without a walking aid, and ended up with meeting our end goal of having 14 prostate cancer survivors enrolled. We did end up with 3 withdrawals, but those were all due to technical issues that we did experience with this particular device. So we made the decision to withdraw them due to not being able to resolve those technical issues. We had 11 men who completed the study. So for results, as I mentioned, we had 11 men. Their ages ranged from 60 to 78 years old. Their BMIs ranged from 25 to 35, and they were spanning from 1 to 14 years since their diagnosis. We did ask them at baseline if they already owned a smartwatch and what type of smartwatch they did own, if they did say that they owned one. So unsurprisingly, Apple Watch was the most popular, with 3 participants owning that. And then we had one Fitbit, one Garmin, one Samsung Galaxy Watch, and one Pixel. 2 said that they owned smartwatches but did not specify the make. So out of our 11 participants, only 2 participants did not already own a smartwatch at baseline. And one of those actually did go on to purchase the study device from the company, the InBody bands, after study completion. So our primary results from this study were the looking at the acceptability of the program as a whole, which is wearing the smartwatch, using the scale in addition to that to do the weekly body composition measurement, and getting those weekly check-in calls to discuss goals and motivation to increase activity during the 6 weeks. So our acceptability score was 7.5, a median score across the group, which is deemed as acceptable. To the study program participation. And then for usability, again, using those 2 simple questions of whether the smartwatch meets their requirements and whether it's easy to use, we did get a median score of slightly above 8, which again are sufficient results for determining that this device is in fact acceptable. We did also give participants the opportunity to submit qualitative feedback after they completed the study, and these are some examples of the participants that really liked the smartwatch and the program itself. One participant said it really encouraged them to meet their health goals by tracking their progress. Another said that the smartwatch has helped me be aware of my daily activities. And then a third one saying that the InBody Band 3 in scale gave me the drive to begin a daily exercise program and change my diet. And this participant was the one that went on to purchase the study device. And just to give you an example, this is what the data looks like on our end at the study team end. So not how it looks in the app to the participants, but this is showing 4 of the main outcome measures of interest in this study. So we averaged the weekly values of maximum heart rate that you can see on the top left here. So it's the average weekly values with each participant being shown by a different color line. And then we have the daily step count, again, averaged over each week, and then the stress score averaged over each week. And then for the body fat percentage, this is just one value taken each week for each participant. So you can see there's quite a lot of variation in the data between participants. There are a number of reasons for this, both for, of course, there will be natural variation of how different patients' health is and how their function is. In addition to that, accuracy from devices often changes depending on how active somebody is or not. So for feasibility, luckily we were able to get most of our data despite the technical issues that everybody experienced. So we had missing days of data for just 9% of total days, affecting 3 out of the 11 participants. And 8 participants reported that they would be likely to continue to use a smartwatch after the study for their healthcare, with only 1 reporting that they would be unlikely. The other 2 were neutral. So most of the results that I presented so far are overwhelmingly positive. I do want to be completely transparent that we did also experience a lot of challenges and barriers to the study, a lot of them associated with this particular device itself. So we chose this device because very few devices can measure body composition, or at least very few wearable devices. There is only one device that has been validated to do this, and that's the Samsung Galaxy Watch. However, it does not work with iPhone users, so that we did not want to be limited to only using people that did not have iPhones. So this InBody band device, the previous model is being used at Mayo Clinic for pancreatic cancer patients, and has been reported to be doing quite well. Unfortunately, they upgraded the model right as we got our funding, so we had to switch to the newer device, which did have a lot of battery and device malfunctions. We did also have data syncing issues with the company app itself. And then for the body composition measurement, we found that a lot of patients were reporting getting user errors from dry skin, and they would often have to put water on their hands to then make the body composition measurement work. Now, with all those negatives being said, I do want to say I do think consumer wearables will be very useful for healthcare. We just need to be very mindful of specific devices, which each one, what the limitations are, what patients they work well for, and what can they do and what can they not. Showing the data here that you can see on the right, I do just want to point out as well, we can see some of the lower lines for like the dark green at the bottom for daily steps, where we can really see very low physical activity in terms of step counts. We can also see in the percentage body fat here, for example, with the light blue line, we're seeing a percentage body fat value that is really unrealistically low. So we do need to be aware that there will be some patients, we know that for physical activity, patients that have lower functioning, usually these consumer grade wearables don't work very well. They are not designed with patients in mind. They are often designed with in some cases with athletes in mind, other cases in the general healthy population. So just to be aware that these devices can really be very useful once patients reach a certain level of perhaps walking at a threshold of a lower speed, we may need to turn to medical grade devices. And then finally, the results from our second aim, which was to develop our own wearables platform for future use. We were successful in working on that with Mayo IT. We do now have infrastructure that works for the in-body band and brings data securely into our Mayo Clinic cloud system for use within the hospital. And the infrastructure was built in such a way that other consumer devices such as Apple Watch or Fitbit or Garmin or a Ring can easily be integrated very quickly into this, which we hope to do in the future. So to sum up of the results of this particular phase of the study, we did find that acceptability, usability, and feasibility were all within an acceptable range for use of this, surprisingly, of this device, given all the technical issues, but of smartwatches in general with Black prostate cancer survivors. And for 7 out of our 11 participants, they viewed the InBody Band smartwatch favorably overall. We do, of course, have some additional limitations with the study. While our sample size is perfectly sufficient for an acceptability study, it is small to read anything into the device data itself or into the effectiveness of having an intervention of using this device along with check-in goal setting calls. In addition to that, our study duration is only 6 weeks, so it would be interesting to see how everything would play out with much longer interventions. And of course, as I already mentioned, we did run into a number of technical issues with this particular device. However, overall, these results really do support the promising utility of wearing a smartwatch for Black prostate cancer survivors to self-monitor their physical and mental health outcomes. So what's next? Well, we still have a lot of work to do in this space to implement consumer-grade wearables into patients' healthcare. There are many things we need to consider as we build up our system, including patient non-adherence and device abandonment. Patients don't always wear their devices, especially if we are giving them devices that they don't get to choose. They are much more likely to use their already existing devices if they have them. And then also, in addition to that, to provide the study or clinical team methods to monitor adherence. They really need an easy way to do this, and most third-party vendor apps do not provide this. So this is really important so that, because oftentimes patients will also run into technical issues and won't want to burden people by reaching out. But when we do follow up with them, then we find that it was a technical issue that they just needed help resolving, and then they'll start wearing their device again. And the other key thing is we cannot constrain our models to one type of device. Models really rely on consistent measures across patients for predicting health outcomes. And in addition to this, it's just not feasible to expect everybody to wear one device. People have different preferences. Different things are going to work for different scenarios. We really need to make things equitable. We need to make sure that this works with several different types of consumer grade devices to maximize both the devices that patients own and also to maximize different programs across different countries where you can sometimes actually get your own wearable consumer device for free with different criteria. So for our future directions, we are really focused on enabling multi-device data collection, collaborating with external partners to make sure that we can integrate multiple different consumer devices into our platform. And what's going to be really critical is the user interface. We want to develop our own user interface so that we can deliver individualized and culturally relevant interventions to patients. In addition to that, integration with medical devices, so many patients already have existing medical grade devices that they need to use. So if we are asking them to wear additional devices, we really need everything to be integrated well together and to prove the value for all of these to improving patients' health. And what's really going to be key is standardizing the wearables data so that we can accurately give clinically actionable insights to both the patients and the clinicians for all of this. So our two main take-home messages from this study are that these results do support the promising utility of wearing a smartwatch for Black prostate cancer survivors to self-monitor their physical and mental health outcomes. But what's really going to be key moving forward is a harmonized and user-centric multi-device wearables platform to deliver individualized and culturally relevant interventions to patients. And with that, I'd like to thank our fantastic study team. As you can see, we have several prominent members from iCCaRE. We also have several members from the Current Center at Mayo Clinic, and this funding for this study was provided by the Current Center and also the Mayo Clinic Clinical Practice Committee through their Eradicating Racism RFA. And thank you so much to everybody for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions or any insights that anybody in the audience has. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fortune Cooper. That was a fantastic presentation. We do have a few questions in the chat that I am going to bring on the screen. Our first question, great presentation. In terms of the exclusion criteria, can you elaborate why you exclude patients undergoing chemo or radiation therapy?
We just really didn't want to put, with this being the first testing of this device, we didn't want to put extra burden on patients that were going through current treatment. Certainly moving forward with other, and I will say with other devices, because this one did have too many technical issues, we would certainly be including people across the different treatment or parts of their treatment path, as well as survivorship. We really do want to cover the whole spectrum, but for initial testing, we always prefer to focus on patients that hopefully are dealing with less.
Another question we had, great presentation again. What are suggested changes to modify for use in cancer survivors to support their survivorship care?
So the key thing is what we always come back to is the physical activity, because even though there are, of course, other interventions that we can do, such as mindfulness or meditation or others, and of course support is key as well, and getting that support with survivorship groups. The one that we really focus on with the sensors, though, is the physical activity piece, because that can improve mindset, that can improve sleep, and of course it can improve body composition. But the one thing that we are very mindful as when we do say that is it is often not easy to increase physical activity. So that's something we really focus on too, is to work with each individual patient of what will work for them. Telling people to go to the gym for several reasons is not always going to be a viable option. So really to work with the patients of how can they feasibly move more throughout their day in a sustainable manner that's going to work for them.
Thank you. Our next question is, what is the potential usefulness for monitoring patient-reported outcomes in clinical trials?
So what we really like about using wearable sensors is that we're getting objective measurements, and we're getting it from their daily lives in their home settings or their community settings. Of course, we can also do this in the hospital as well. But the key thing is that we're getting a bigger picture. Clinical assessments are, of course, still very important, but combining that with the actual data from their daily lives for just a bigger picture, we think really is very important to do.
Thank you. Next question. Thank you for your presentation. I was wondering if there are any recommendations to improve the acceptability or usability for Black patients so that they can maximize their benefits from this technology.
So I think we still have a lot of work to do here. One thing I do want to point out with wearable sensors studies from all populations, one of the issues we have is we have selection bias. Usually especially with the way of these days of we're using electronic means to contact patients. If patients aren't regularly using their patient portal, they may not see the outreach. In addition to that, we often find with wearable studies that the people signing up to these, as you can see, we had 9 out of our 11 participants already have their own smartwatch. So they're already using this technology. What's really difficult is how do we get to the people that aren't already using that technology to get them to use it? And we often find too that people who are already quite physically active are the ones that sign up. So that is something that we really, I guess the first phase is always let's see how it's working with the people that will sign up. The next phase is then how are we going to get the people that aren't already very engaged and doing this on their own, and then figure out how do we improve things, both in terms of acceptability and usability. So there's still a lot of work to be done here.
Thank you. And one last question. Great work and good presentation. How do we replicate this in Nigeria? In the app/software to receive data from that patients available for, I have a feeling that the device will also help make the participants step up their physical activities above the usual.
So again, I'm going to have to answer that question with, we still have so much work to do here. I think the key going forward is to use, I would not recommend using the device that we use in the study. I think the key is going to be using the more popular consumer grade wearables that we can get access to that already work with the smartphones on a much more readily available basis. I will also say for body composition, if we want to continue to include that, I would recommend going with the scales that measure body composition rather than getting it from a smartwatch. There's a severe lack of validation with getting body composition from these devices. So my recommendation would be really focusing on devices like Fitbit or Garmin and focusing on physical activity. They already, until we get it up, and we don't have it up and running in healthcare here either. So that's why I'm saying this. We're still a ways off from anywhere from having the infrastructure to be pulling in these data into healthcare. So for now, my recommendation is to really maximize using things like Garmin and Fitbit and the apps on smartphones. And yes, I guess much more to come with figuring out building up the infrastructure. I know it's an implementation challenge that everyone's facing.
All right, that was our last question in the chat. However, if anyone has any further questions for Dr. Fortune Ngupor, please feel free to put them in the chat as well. Thank you again, Dr. Fortune Ngupor. We greatly appreciate having you today.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So now I'm going to bring on our next presenter. And that is Emelina Astro Flores. Of course, usually you might see her where I'm sitting right now as the host, but she has graciously agreed to do a presentation on the SOAPCA conference. And so Emelina is a senior program coordinator at Mayo Clinic, where she leads Dr. Odetna's iCCaRE initiative. With a background in microbiology and cell science from the University of Florida, Emelina is dedicated to advancing equitable health outcomes through community-engaged research and education. Her focus areas are empowering underrepresented populations in clinical research, fostering trust, and ensuring diversity in biomedical innovation. Emelina continues to champion inclusive health initiatives that bridge research and community needs. Please allow me to welcome Emelina.
Hi, everyone. Okay, I'm just going to bring my slides up. 1 second. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Emelina. Some of you know me because I email you all iCCaRE, but I have the pleasure of providing a presentation and overview about the APCA conference that was held. So, for those who may not know, we had a conference in September, the Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, and the conference was held in Lagos, Nigeria, and was titled the Inaugural Science of Advanced Prostate Cancer in Africa Conference. So I wanted to start off today with the conference objective and goals. So the objective was to address the public health problem of prostate cancer experienced by Black men globally. And our goals was to provide pre-conference educational programs and research training on developing clinical trial skills, resources, and infrastructure. We also wanted to help develop recommendation, action plans, and best practices in sub-Saharan African countries for clinical trials. We wanted to facilitate the development of African researchers and clinicians for networking, and also facilitating the development of a global community of practice to address the common challenges of prostate cancer clinical trials within the region. So I wanted to share our conference chair board. So we had Dr. Dedna as one of our chair board, as well as Dr. Popola and Dr. Musini. And I also wanted to give flowers to Vanessa Gordon and Shani because they were the individuals who were helping to spearhead the coordination of the conference, as well as the African coordinators. So before the conference, we had a pre-conference session. So this conference that we had almost a week worth of conference activities. So before the actual APCA, we had pre-conference activities held. The first activity that was held was on Friday, August 29th. And I do want to preface by saying I was not part of some of the pre-conference activities as my flight came later, but I did want to share more of some videos that were recorded during this time. So let me go and share some of those videos. So on the 29th, we had essentially a prostate cancer conversations and nutrition RX event organized by our African Behavioral Research Center. Here is an example of the team. So for those of you who may not know, the Nutrition RX event is where our global coordinators went and provided essentially packets of food, and as well as prostate cancer health education and information to the community members. Here are an example of some of the So essentially, I'm going back to here. So I did want to give kudos to Sheena for helping develop these videos that really help showcase what our global coordinators were able to do for these Nutrition RX events. We were able to see that they were out in the community providing packets of food, and there was so much need for food that we ran out of food, and we had to actually tell individuals that we ran out of this food. So there is definitely a need for these events to be held within Africa. And we had also another pre-conference event was held on Sunday, August 31st, specifically at a mosque that Dr. Dunn actually grew up in. And I have a video that I can quickly show. We also had this video I wanted to briefly.
All the things that you've done, my imagination has turned to reality. Oh my God, you do this one, you do this one, When I think about the love that you've shown me, my imagination has turned to reality. Oh my God, you do this one, you do this one, hey, testimony, overflowing, celebration all around me, testimony, overflowing, celebration all around me. Jesus, you do this one, all the glory is yours. You do this one,
Alright, so moving forward with the presentation. I wanted to cut up there. So another event that we had during the pre-conference event was essentially training of CAPTC coordinators in regards to best practices. Since all our coordinators are involved with research and research-related studies, we wanted to ensure that they knew the best practices to follow. And so on September 1st, there was a training led by PowerPoint slides recorded by Farhia and Monica with voiceover that helped us guide best practices in regards to community engagement research. And so you can see a breakdown of the agenda on the left-hand side, where we discussed about like foundational knowledge, role of community research coordinators, human subject protections and training. And I did want to showcase some of the slides that were shared. So super captivating, super engaging. We also had like small breakout sessions to essentially have our coordinators kind of think of certain situations that may occur. Because we kind of were able to finish the coordinator training a little bit earlier than anticipated, I also kind of gave a brief overview about DoD reporting, because within iCCaRE, all our coordinators, even those in Africa, help support certain corps, and so certain reports are expected from them, and we essentially went over like best practices for being able to write the reports that are due. And because we had the room for the whole day, we also had an opportunity for the coordinators to try out the Vera headset that was brought from here, from our Jacksonville site, to Nigeria. And so you could see Sheyi, some of our coordinators, Sheena and Busayo, trying out the Vera headset. Overall, it was a very they enjoyed the experience, and just being able to navigate that virtual reality world. Additionally, to the pre-conference, we had specifically a clinical trial bootcamp for clinicians and researchers. And on the left-hand side, again, you can see like the agenda that was involved with the clinical trial bootcamp. You can see we talked about types of clinical trials, introduction to clinical trials, informed consent process, decentralization of clinical trials, monitoring and auditing. And after a set of number of speakers spoke, we ended up having a panel session where the audience were able to ask questions to the panelists regarding questions about the clinical trial bootcamp. And one of the most hot topic items was the ethical considerations of IRB processes, where Professor Peter Ajiboye, he was very popular during the panel sessions, as there was a lot of questions about IRB, like whether certain studies can be approved, etc. Also on Tuesday, we had a SWOT analysis. I will go very briefly through these slides. So SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We asked all individuals within the conference to help complete the SWOT analysis, and so we had about 67 individuals who were able to complete our slide out. So 71% engagement, and you can see the age range of the individuals who've completed the SWOT. So the majority of individuals, 55%, were about 40 to 59 years old, 26% 30 to 49 years old, and 20% 60 and above. We also asked questions about research career categories. And you can see on the left-hand side, majority were early stage investigators as well as independent investigators. We also had our community and survivor advocates answer the SWOT analysis. And within there, we wanted to specify the category of, I believe, early stage of independent investigators. And so you can see the different types of categories we asked. For countries represented, you could see there the majority of the country that was most represented was Nigeria. I do want to preface that we did have individuals from USA complete this SWOT analysis. I think it was just a small percentage that they didn't really appear up on our pie chart. So, but we had mostly from Nigeria are the countries that were represented the most. And briefly going through these slides, our strengths. So strengths of conducting advanced prostate cancer clinical trials in sub-Saharan Africa. We had advocacy, community engagement, diversity, and resilience. For the top three in weaknesses, we had sorry, I read Dr. Dunda's message in the chat. I love Nigeria. I think it was a really great experience. The food was very spicy. For weaknesses, we had weaknesses of conducting advanced prostate cancer clinical trials in sub-Saharan Africa. We had financial difficulty, ignorance, infrastructure, bureaucracy, stakeholder engagement. For opportunities, we had enhanced quality of health, collaboration, innovations, inclusion, and precision medicine. And threats of conducting prostate cancer clinical trials. Again, you can see financial difficulty comes at the top again. Financial difficulty, capacity, accessibility, and mistrust. And these were the conclusions of the SWOT analysis held during our preclinical trial bootcamp. So the need to establish and strengthen clinical trials would involve strong community engagement, robust advocacy, and large and diverse populations. Okay. As well, so Tuesday you could see was pretty packed. We also had African Night held on that day. So here are some spotlights from our African Night. We had everyone essentially dressed in African colors, and you can see Dr. Kaniji as well as Dr. Agenda dancing here. All right, so the actual day of the conference, you can see how the pre-conference days were very heavily packed. So our actual, APCA conference dates were from September 3rd to the 5th. And just some highlights from the conference days. I did want to share that Dr. Dena was able to be named NICRAT ambassador, as well as Dr. Yates. So that's a picture on the right-hand side of our screen. So from my understanding, they've been trying for 5 years to be able to name her ambassador, and involved a lot of paperwork and barriers, but they were able to do so, and I'm really super happy for her being named as ambassador. But on the first day of the conference, we also had the open ceremony led by Dr. Lodoyimbo, keynote address led by Dr. Ogo. Dr. Bolojoko led the ABCs of advocacy, and we had some panel discussions with our regarding early detection myths and community mobilization. Also on this day, I helped test out Vera on our prostate cancer survivors. So most of this day, I was able to help connect with our prostate cancer survivors, and we see Mr. Olise as well as Mr. Leo. They've enjoyed greatly their experience with Vera. They wanted to continue. They did not want to take the headset off. Dr. Ngupo mentioned oh, you need to take it off because you might get motion sickness, but they really enjoyed watching the modules that were there, and I really heard great feedback from them in regards to Vera and the modules that were present there. Like some of their feedback were they really felt that represented one survivorship journey. And this picture in the middle I added because I was showing them how to make a heart, and later on you'll see it again in this presentation. On this particular day, we had a Queen's reception. So here are some highlights from our Queen's reception. Our Queen's reception was only for women, and during that time period as well, we sang and praised to God, as well as mention our devotion to Him. So it was a very delightful presentation, Queenside reception, and all the women were able to get beautiful fans. Thursday, September 4th, we had the plenary and scientific sessions. We started off the morning with professional development sessions, which included a very AI component, so clinical trials and designs led by Dr. Popola, Dr. Rutini talking about cancer genomics and precision oncology. We had Mr. Badamosi from the UK talk about data science with Dr. Ngufo. So I do have a very brief, I'm running out of time. I do have a very brief video about the plenary sessions, again, developed by Sheena, so I could just show back to the presentation. So that's our plenary and scientific sessions. Further on to the day, so every night within the conference, we partied. We ate, we partied, we danced. And so on this particular night was International Night. And I really wanted to spotlight our survivors. And so I was able to meet Captain Yahaya for the first time. That's Captain Yahaya, for those who don't know, in the middle picture. We have Leo here, as well as Mr. Elise. And for those who don't know, since it's my first time in Nigeria, Africa, I also met my counterpart, Sheyi. And so I like to joke that Sheyi and I, there's an obvious height difference between us. And so I really like this picture of the both of us. But that was that was international night. I wasn't aware it was international night, so I didn't bring my Peruvian outfits, but I did buy something from Africa to help at least fit in with the reception. Just want to share that. So this outfit that I'm wearing is not from Peru, it's from Nigeria. All right, then Friday, September 5th was a very heavy packed conference day as well. So it was the day in which we concluded the conference, but we also had a survivorship town hall, as well as the iCCaRE conference and the CAPTC reception dinner. So you can see here the agenda for Friday, September 5th. We also went over the SWOT analysis in this particular day. So the prostate cancer town hall, you can see we were able to have some of our prostate cancer survivors present and share their story. I really love this part of the conference because I was able to essentially hear and understand more about our advocates, their stories, and everything they went through. So that was our prostate cancer town hall. We additionally had a ad hoc RFA meeting with Dr. Kaninji and our RFA recipients, which were 11 of them. So we can see pictures of them around the table. I believe my screen may have froze. Jada, am I good now?
Let me try. There we go.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, and we also had our iCCaRE conference. So our iCCaRE conference, we had certain core members present updates in regards to phase 2, year 1 accomplishments. So we had some of the core leaders present about those updates, for example, in tracks, and as well as our DHHS core. We also had our RFA recipients provide like a brief presentation about their project. So, and then we also had collaborations and future discussions. So these pictures are our RFA recipients just providing a brief presentation about their project. And within this specific part of the conference, we learned Dr. Timi shared great news about donation that he was providing from us. Essentially, Dr. Rotini was donating 5,000 needles for Liberia, and did want to share that donation was, it was very meaningful, and that that Dr. Rotini, he donated it from using his project funds. So I did want to give him a shout out. And on this last day of the conference, on Friday, we had the CAPTC 20 reception. So in celebration for CAPTC's 20th anniversary for being founded, we had a reception dinner, and it was so beautiful. We had everyone, a majority of individuals, put on a traditional African wear. We had someone present that was able to help put the women's hair up in gele. Please correct me if I'm mispronouncing it correctly. And Dr. Dana was giving her address. Dr. Yates was our keynote speaker. We were giving out awards. It was a very beautiful moment. We also had individuals there who were able to dance, so everyone was able to see traditional dances from Africa. We had cake. We were able to cut up the cake. So this part of the conference I really enjoyed. It's just amazing to see like all the work that has been done within CAPTC for the last 20 years, and just everyone being together and just celebrating these accomplishments. And this slide, I want to give a shout out for Vanessa for helping to complete, but just wanted to highlight some of the conference outcomes. So there were 167 conference delegates in attendance, 44 abstracts submitted. There were 24 individuals that were provided travel support to attend the conference. There were 14 media outlets in Nigeria that reported the conference, raising awareness about prostate cancer, and 4 continents represented, including North America, Europe, Africa, and Australia. And this is my last slide, but I just wanted to provide some news highlights. So the conference was, as mentioned in my previous slide, was very well covered. We have just wanted to just show some article headlines. We have Dr. Dana, who was interviewed on the TV and the news. We had the conference displayed on the newspaper, even on the front pages of certain websites. I know Dr. Dana really liked the picture or this article on the right-hand side, because we really do this in lieu of our prostate cancer survivors. And so we do this in order to save lives. And that's giving us the opportunity to work with prostate cancer survivors and ensuring that we are saving lives. This is what the conference is about. So just wanted to share again those news highlights. And yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Emelina, for sharing. I love the information. If anyone has any questions, feel free to drop one over at time. So if anyone has any questions for Emelina, please feel free to shoot her an email or Teams. And also thank you again to Dr. Fortune for her presentation earlier. And we will see you guys again next month. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Jada. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.